Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're playing Stockfish, which loses 300 ELO every time I put its king in check. Thank you to MK for leaving this idea in a comment. If you have any ideas you'd like me to try, feel free to comment them down below. My goal is to win one game. Let's get started with game number one. Alright, game number one, right off the bat there are two very distinct, very different strategies for this game. Obviously the ultimate goal is to put the king in check as many times as possible so that it starts to lose ELO and eventually just plays like Martin, and then it's a piece of cake from there. But there are two very different ways to go about this. Number one, we could play very sacrificial chess and just try and basically plow down its rating as quickly as possible early on in the game. Because of course, once it's like developed all of its pieces, it's going to be way more difficult to get to the king, since inherently Stockfish is less likely to leave its king exposed in any sense, even if it is for a crazy sacrifice, because later in the game that usually leads to trouble. But early on in the game, it's very easy to get free checks by just sacrificing pieces. Now, at a rate of losing 300 ELO points for every single check, we'd need about 8 checks to get it down to like around 1300, which is where we can pretty easily start winning the game. Now, obviously I'm not going to sacrifice that many different pieces, otherwise I wouldn't have any pieces left to win the game with. But if some of them are repeated, then I think that's actually a pretty good starting point. The second strategy, first strategy is crazy sacrifices, and honestly I'm going to try that out for the first game, so I'm just going to take on f7 right away. That's the first strategy. The second strategy, which I'll try in the second game if this doesn't work out, is basically trying to simplify and trade a whole bunch of pieces down to something like a rook endgame or a bishop endgame, where checks will happen, but they won't be critical checks. Like, Stockfish is more likely to leave those checks available on the board because it won't lead to a mating threat. It's just part of the endgame. So those are the two main strategies. Now, Stockfish is already down, quote unquote. It's not a huge jump, but down to 3,300. So I'll continue my strategy of just throwing pieces in its face and hoping that it, results in a whole bunch of checks. Here we already have check number 2, which puts it down to 3,000. And again, as long as it doesn't think it's getting checkmated, this is pretty rock solid. I'm going to throw the sneaky c3 on the board, looking for queen to b3 check. We do get pawn to h6, but we also get queen to b3 check, which now pushes it down again to 2,700 ELO. Obviously, 2,700 is still measures beyond anything that I will ever achieve, but it's gone down from top engine in the world to around just under super grandmaster level. We are met with pawn to d5. Now, I think the natural response here is just to take. If the queen takes back, that would actually be pretty good because we could take back with our queen and give another check, but it would also be a fair trade. And then we'd still have plenty of pieces left to work with and sacrifice and do whatever we please with. So I think I'm just going to do that. I'm going to take on d5. Okay, knight to a5 forces my queen to make a decision about where she wants to be. And I think she would like to be somewhere where she keeps an eye on the pawn. So maybe queen to b5 here I think makes sense. If we lose this knight, we can take this knight. And again, I'm kind of hoping for that queen trade to come onto the board. So queen b5 I think makes sense. Okay, met with pawn to c6 with a sort of quote-unquote discovered defense on the knight. So I should probably take this. We lose this knight. Oh, this is really interesting, but this is actually not bad at all because I lost this knight, but now I can take on b7, I think. And if it takes back with the knight, then I have queen c4 or queen b3 check. However, if it takes with the bishop, I'm not really sure what I have there, but I'll take here. Okay, it does in fact take with the bishop, which is not great news. I mean, on the bright side, the king is relatively exposed. The problem is all of these squares are actually defended at the moment. So I think I should just continue to develop like super duper aggressively. Maybe castle my king? I'm castling directly into the line of sight of the bishop and the rook, and as you can see, it's already coordinated a checkmating threat, but I'm kind of hoping that it will like start to move its pieces around and clear up some spaces on this diagonal so I can get some checks in. So I do have to defend this. You'd imagine g3 is probably the only sound way to do that. We're met with knight to g4, doubling down on h2, which does tear my position apart, but I think I can play queen to f5 now, looking for check. And then a second check of queen to f7, which would be nice. So let's throw that onto the board. Queen to f5, we do drop h2, but we drop another check as well. Also, it's hanging the knight, which is interesting, but it has checkmate in 1. In any case, queen d6 I think has to be the best idea here. Now it's down to 2,400. Still not low enough for it to miss a very simple checkmate in 1, but lower, which I'm happy about. Maybe f3 now. Oh, f3, queen g3. Holy cow. Oh wait, am I already toast? Oh wait, I might just be lost already. Whoops. Wow, this mating net is critical. Maybe f4 doesn't even work because check, king f2 isn't an escape square because of the knight, which obviously I don't have time to take because mate is on the board. Oh, I'm toast already. That was fast. Okay, well, I'll make a decorative move to try and defend myself, but with that we do in fact lose to Panic Fish. Okay, I know that I said I was going to try the more sound strategy, but I actually think that this had some good merit. I just don't think I played it as precisely as I needed to. So let's go to move on to game number 2. All right, game number 2. I actually did think that strategy was pretty sound. We're met with pawn to e5. I'm just going to play it a little bit more precisely. Knight to f6. Let's go knight to f3. I'm going to set up my checks a little bit better than I did. We do sacrifice this pawn, but I could not care less about this pawn. If anything, I want the center to be nice and open so I can throw on some checks. So I'm thinking right now bishop takes. That's check number 1, would drop it down to 3,300. Check number 2 would be on e5, would drop it down to 3,000. King could move basically anywhere, and I would play queen to h5, probably check? Or no, I guess it would move the king back to g8. Okay, I think that's the best move there. In which case, queen to f3. You'd have to defend f7, which means you'd leave queen b3 on the board, which would drop it down to 2,700. And I've only lost one piece, and to be frank, I got a pawn in return for it. So it could be worse, I think. So I think we're taking here on f7. That's check number 1, drops it down to 3,300 ELO. Now, obviously, knight takes, drops it down to 3,000. We do get the expected king to g8 move. And now, queen to f3, I mean, it can't play something like d5 to stop that check idea because queen to f7 is mate. So queen to f3, you have to stop the mating threat, probably with queen to f6, but then I have check number 1. If queen to e6, that would be amazing because check number 2. To be fair, I can still expect it to play all the best moves because at 3,000 ELO, I don't see a difference between 3,000 ELO and like 3,600. I'll start to notice a difference when we're down to like the low 2,000s, I'd imagine. But queen to f3, I think here's pretty rock solid. Knight to g5 does defend f7, but now I have check on b3. Oh, I have check on d5 as well, though, which might be more appealing because check on b3 allows d5, a very nice developing move, controlling a lot of center space, whereas queen d3, I think, forces knight to e6. And then my queen is really quite a powerhouse in the middle of the board there. Yeah, I think I like that better. Let's go check, dropping it down now to 2,700. Knight goes back to e6. It's way too early to start making some crazy sacrifices, but I'm glad that we're in like a really active position at the moment. Because I don't actually have to convert this, activity and king weakness into a checkmate. I don't expect to do that whatsoever. I just have to convert it into a position where the engine has to concede at least a couple more checks, and then it will be weak enough that I can just dismantle it normally. Now with knight to e6 on the board, I think I might have to kingside castle here. I want to get my own king out of the center of the board. We are met with c6, booting the queen. Let's go back to f3 and threaten f7. Queen to f6 is on the board. I really don't want to trade queens though. So I can't really play queen g3 though because of bishop d6 pinning the knight to the queen. The thing is, if I trade the queens, a lot of checks will be lost. But if I trade the queens, then maybe we can combine the strategies where if we trade queens, it's also less likely to be able to successfully checkmate me. Actually, I think I'm on board with that. We'll trade the queens. Its king is still semi-exposed, so I can play stuff like knight to g4 and threaten, some loose checks here and there. But my king is totally safe, and I don't have to worry about Stockfish magically using its queen to tangle up my position like it did in the first game where it had like that crazy queen g3 move. Could also play d4 here. I like the concept of that, sacrificing the pawn, which it does in fact bite. And we play knight to h6 check, dropping it down to now 2,400 ELO, and in fact it leaves the knight on the board. It doesn't even trade off. I think this might be the first time in history that I've been actually happy about the fact that Stockfish is capable of throwing the king out into the middle of the board and facing no consequences. Because that's what I want. I want an opponent that's that confident that it can throw its king out into the center of the board and not feel threatened by checkmate because it doesn't know that I'm just trying to get a whole bunch of checks. Also, I will say the concept for the name was hilarious. I took it directly from the comment, didn't change a thing. Because the concept of like the strongest engine in the world like freaking out just because you gave him a check is quite comical to me. In any case, king to g6 is on the board. You'd imagine I have to retreat the knight. Knight takes on c2. That rook is history. I could play knight to a3 and try to spare the huge material loss because if the knight takes, then I just move the bishop out of the way and the knight is trapped because the knight sees c2, which I think I'm going to do because I don't want to lose that much material. I mean, the darn thing is still rated 2,400. It's not that trivial yet to win this game. Knight takes on a2, and we just want to get like super active. So I'm thinking just bishop to e3 develops normally, pawn to d5 hits the knight. There's no way I trapped my knight. That's crazy. Okay, h3 to defend the knight. Bishop takes and it's freed its knight and traded off pieces and I got nothing in return for it. Okay, well I do have to take back and the knight does in fact escape. Wow, that was a beautiful set of moves right there. Okay, let's go back to the checking idea. I need checks on the board immediately. Let's take back. Knight takes on e3, check, down to 2,100. King slides up. Let's move the rook up. Oh, but we drop the pawn anyways. Oh, but it doesn't take. Okay, slide the rook over. I'm shocked that it hasn't decided to take on d7. We'll give another check. which drops it down to 1800 ELO, which frankly might not be enough, but it's pretty darn close. So much so that I think I'm just going to move the rook back. Knight comes fourth, king to h2 should be fine, and I'm setting up rook to g3 check. Pawn comes up to c5, another check puts it down to 1500. And now we're finally starting to approach the territory where we might actually have a chance here. This is crazy, but we might have a chance. At all costs, I cannot lose this rook though. So let's shuffle the rook back over. Pawn comes up to c4, but now I deliver yet another check, and now it's down to 1200 ELO. Knight comes out to g4 to block. I really seriously think we have a really good chance here. Knight comes back. Let's go king to g1. Pawn a6 is beautiful because it does nothing about all of these threats. And the crazy part is that the engine, like when it was actually strong and like over 2000 and what have you, was setting up some really scary threats that are still on the board. Like this pawn promotion would be checkmate because my king is trapped. Like I literally can't even escape the knight. The other knight covers f1. But now that it's rated 1200, it's just gonna like randomly shuffle pieces around. And once it gets under 1000, it's game over basically. So I just need to keep putting safe checks on the board. Let's go rook to h3. Pawn to a5 is beautiful. It's gone from the strongest engine in the world to learning how to push flank pawns one square at a time. And now with this rook to f3 check, it is now rated 900 ELO. It's not looking great for the bot. The king goes back to g5. Now I just need to sneakily give it like, if I can give it 2 more checks, shoot, if I could give it 3 more checks, it would just be 0 ELO. But if I could just give it 2 more checks, it's game over for certain. 1 more check would be pretty secure for the victory. The problem is I really don't have a lot of mobility in this position. Like, it's not like I'm looking at like a whole bunch of different options and deciding what the best thing is. My king only has 1 move. This pawn has 1 move. This king has 1 move. This rook has a couple of moves, so it's probably what I'll do. And these pawns are basically stuck. I think moving the rook over... Oh, but here's the thing. If I move the rook over, I take away some of its chances to move the king over as well, which I want it to do because then rook over is check. So I don't think I'm gonna do that. Maybe I'll just make a waiting move with my pawn. Oh, it shuffles its rook over. It could like take and give checkmate. Scary stuff, but as long as the rook is here, it's not technically checkmate. So maybe I make another waiting move. Okay, rook comes up to a6. Oh, wait, you know what I should be doing? I should be moving over to h3. Even better. I was going to say looking to take on h7 and then giving check from behind, which is newly possible because this rook that was defending the pawn has moved out of the way. But king comes out to f4, which means after this check, it's just rated 600 ELO. King comes over to e4. This is a very weak bot at this point. It's very frail. So now I really don't believe that we're in any trouble at all. We just move the rook over, wait around for... Ooh. I was going to say we're not in any trouble at all, but c3 is extremely threatening, looking for a pawn promotion. With any luck, it doesn't promote, because the weird thing is, Stockfish did such an amazing job of cramping down my king that I still can't escape. Like, I'm boxed in at the moment. I could shuffle my pawn forward, I guess, but even then I'd meet a dead end very quickly. Let's take on h7. I need every opportunity possible to give checks. Pawn moves up to b5. I think I'm going to take that. Rook slides down to a7. I'll take that as well. Knight slides over. There have to be checking opportunities in like no time here. Let's go rook back to a6. Yeah, because I just by RNG, eventually it will push all of these pawns down to promotion, so I have to get these checks out of the way ASAP. Which luckily is not a huge deal, because now I can just give this check, knock it down to 300 ELO. It does not even take back. Knight to e5 is on the board. I'm going to take this rook. King slides back. If I check it again, what? It just goes down to 0 ELO. I'll give check, and basically we're just playing against Zach at this point. It's never going to mate us. It's just going to play the worst chess known to man. So realistically, I can just play absolutely whatever at this point. Yeah, takes. Appreciate the donation. We'll take that. Take that as well. Don't mind if I take your knight as well. Thanks. We'll slide the pawn forward, promote. It's probably not even, oh, I spoke too soon there. It is going to take. Okay, whoops. I thought it wasn't going to take my promoted queen, but it seems to be out for some species of vengeance. We'll push this pawn down to promotion as well. Nice, and with that, we do get to set up my favorite type of checkmate. Invented in 1861 by Abraham Lincoln, we do in fact get ladder's mate. Thank you again so much to MK for this awesome video idea. We will take a quick look at the game review because that has to be very amusing, I'd imagine. Okay, on the right-hand side, you can in fact see the game review. This barely even looks like a rating graph. It looks more like a yin-yang symbol, but as you can see, we started off even. Whoops, I don't know why it shifted down so far, but as you can see, we did start off even, and then as the game progressed, I got worse and worse and worse. Around this move right here, I guess it was mate in 12 at one point. I mean, I was completely losing. Mate in 12 / -26, and then eventually right here, right as I was ready to lose, I guess it was like mate in 6. Oh no, yeah, it was mate in 6 for black. Wow, that's really crazy. Oh yeah, because it has these pawn promotion ideas that it never followed through on. Out of nowhere, we spike back up to even and then spike up to +8. These were the other relevant stats. We played with an accuracy of 81%, 0.2 higher than the engine. But with that, we do in fact defeat Panic Fish. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what other ideas I should try out for future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.